Welcome to episode 3 of the Surge Soundbooth podcast, recorded in Scottsdale, Arizona, for the 2025 National Alumni Convening of the Surge Institute Fellowship. This episode features my good brother out of Chicago, Derrick the Gent Fleming. And for those that know Derrick, you know he is all the energy, all the flavor, all the light in any room he rolls in. And what's really great about this episode is that it's an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation. And as we were putting together this program, it was really difficult to identify like what was the best format, right? There's so many alumni, there's so many things to talk about, there's so many people that you want to take advantage of the opportunities with. And it just so happened that the other two people who were signed up for the same session as Derrick weren't able to make it. And so it allowed this opportunity for us to have a one-on-one conversation. And I'm really thankful for that because I think it allowed us to really get deeper into some of the nuances of the work that Derrick does. So with that, let's just get right into it. You and I, of course, have been kind of talking about different things. So since it's just us, I'll start with one question just to get us going, which is something that Carmita said this morning, and I'm just really interested in how other people received it. She's the part where she said, we're not here to kind of politely ask for our space. Like, we're not really here to be like, hey, we're here with this dope organization. Can you just let us do a little bit of here? She's like, we're here to take over, right? Mm-hmm. And that jumped off the ground for me. How did you receive that? What did that hit for you?
Yeah, when she raised that, it gave me permission again to continue to do what I've been doing. I call myself an infiltrator on purpose. You know, we all been through that lesson either directly with Carmita or through the current framework of how the fellowships go. When you talk about what is your role, orchestrator, infiltrator, agitator, like what is your role? And so when she said that, I was like, yes, the world is on fire, verse figuratively and literally, but how do we still show up and take a space? And I think that's important to understand what is your role in the work. And it gave me permission to say, yeah, keep doing the goddamn thing, because I refuse to be afraid to get up and still do the impact work that's important to me. I refuse to get up and ignore what's going on and still make a decision on what needs to happen while still caring for myself. So for me, it was permission to say, yeah, I may be a little tired. Yeah, the world may be a little crazy. Yeah, I got to worry about my employees and make sure payroll hits today, like it did this morning.
Right.
But I still have to make sure that I'm giving myself permission to show up and take the space, whether that is resting. Like I told a friend of mine, go take some rest. Mm-hmm. You need to chill out, trying to do too much. Or for us that came here to get poured into, I'm not trying to miss nothing.
Right.
Because as an entrepreneur who runs my consultancy, who does other things, oftentimes the work feel isolated and alone. So I have to actively go into the places, into the spaces to then be poured into. So when she said that, it was like, yeah, let's still take permission and understanding what your role is right now, whether that is to take a few steps back or a few steps forward.
I love that, man. I love that concept of the getting poured into, because I'm the same. Like when even talking to Autumn and them about this, they kept being very, thoughtful. They were like, hey, when are you going to have time? If you do it at this time, then you're not going to have that time. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking? Oh, I'm doing this anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to the room. I'm going to be having these conversations anyway. So I might as well do it in a context that I can see value in, right?
Exactly.
I didn't give you a chance to actually introduce yourself, first name, last name, what you do, what cohort, of course. And then go into what's a current initiative that you're working on right now? Just what's a current initiative, and then maybe what kind of supports are at the front right now, or in reach that you need to get it going further.
Yeah. So Derrick Fleming Jr. pronouns are he and they. Cohort, Shy 20, the Resurgence, the Jean Jacket crew. That is us. We hit 5 years this year, which is awesome. That's why I love you all cohort so much, because it signifies 5 years for us in doing this thing. And our own THL Enterprises, which is a boutique consulting firm that focuses on 3 main things: nonprofit consulting, leadership and liberation coaching, and corporate event curation. So no birthday party, no bar mitzvahs. We do corporate conferences.
I like that.
We do fundraisers.
I'm snatching that.
Yes, because I get asked all the time.
That's an
and
important
the answer
disqualifier.
Is no. When people see me throw a birthday party, those are gifts to friends and families, but they think it translates into business. I'm like, no.
I hear that. I appreciate that so much, man.
But one of my current clients is My Brother's Keeper in Chicago, which supports Black and brown boys or young men of color across the city of Chicago. And I am assigned as a Southside organizer, which is supporting 8 communities, over 230,000 residents on the South Side of Chicago, 30 plus organizations, and over 200 participants. So I'm doing a lot of coalition building work. So if I had a call to action right now, is I need every youth serving organization that touches any percentage of young men of color, specifically Black and brown boys, to join the movement of the work that I'm doing. We have some great things that's going on in terms of bringing more resources, grant dollars directly to organizations, while also galvanizing systemic change on a population level change level. So what does it mean to create change beyond just a few thousand, 100 you're touching, but to support all young men of color across the city of Chicago? There are, for the past few decades, research institutions, institutions themselves, higher ed, that come and study what we do in Chicago, and they go and replicate it and do it way better than how we do it. So I have been tasked with leading the South Side, where you have other individuals on the West Side and the Southwest Side, ensuring it's happening there. But I have the largest region. And my job right now is to galvanize these individuals on a monthly basis, but also on a quarterly basis as well, to ensure we're doing the work to become a certified city across the city of Chicago, but then also making sure we support all of our organizations, whether they have been doing it for the past 10 years and doesn't have a 501c, or just started and have a 501c, or you've been doing it for the past 100 years, you're trying to grow your impact. How do we work together? I firmly believe that if we are not working in coalition, if we're not working in collective impact, we are wasting resources.
Man, I love the way you frame that. Another thing Carmita said earlier that stuck to me was this, or not Carmita, Ryan, I think his name was, the moderator.
Oh, yeah.
He said this concept of what narrative power is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the narrative power, specifically around Black boys in Chicago, like that narrative is winning and has a substantial amount of support across the world, right? Yeah. Sadly, even in Chicago. And so what I was asking them is, I'm like, man, like, we can be honest and say that, like, in our lifetime, it is very possible that we will not be able to deconstruct that entirely, right? And so, like, putting that out there to say that, like, dreaming is not my strong suit, right? I tend to do better in practical, tactical spaces where I can physically see what is happening, right? See the results of the work, so to speak. So anyway, I'm saying that to say the way you frame that, you work with youth, right? We were talking more particularly about adult men in that conversation. What are some of the just immediate low lift, I'm average Joe dude from Chicago who really hates seeing what's going on with these kids. What's like the lowest level thing I can do to just help, to add some value to what you are doing on a more direct and systemic level?
The first, what I would say is, have you asked yourself an internal question: what man or person am I right now? And then what is my role in the community? I think that's the first question. Because when I hear that question, the first thing that most people do start giving you answers and solutions as to, mentor, or, go donate,
right,
or go do these things. You may not know what your capacity to do that. And I do not want you to enter into a young person's life not knowing what your capacity is. And you only can be there for 3 weeks, and they need you for the next 3 months. And now you're another person that stopped out of their life, and now they want to stop what they've been doing. So I think the first question, understand what is your capacity. I think it's the same thing when people talk about allyship. Yes, allyship is just one phrase of what it is, but there are steps to allyship. The first thing is becoming aware. So even when it comes to supporting young men of color, what is your awareness, understand your capacity for serving the community? You may just be the one who want to walk around, just show that you are taking care of your family. And that could be an example enough of your community. Like, just making sure you take care of your household, so the young brothers on the block can see that Mr. Rogers, I don't know him that well. We pick his kids up every day from school. I see him treat his wife or his partner well, whoever he chooses to love well. I want to be like that. And that's an example just enough. Or you can be that one to say, hey, I do want to mentor. And come talk to me. There are 40 organizations.
Right. There's plenty of opportunities.
Where I can direct, and you say, I want to do a little bit more. Or you may want to organize with me. You may want to figure out how to sit down and come up with strategy to then get all these organizations who are led by most times men of color or white women, and a lot of egos are at play. And it is a lot of work to organize these people to get on the same page and then figure out what needs to happen to support this demographic. Or you're the researcher. I was just at a conference at University of Chicago before I flew out here the day before, and I was talking with a data scientist trying to, hey, I need you in my meetings because you come from a perspective that understand the data way better than I do. I can read it, but you're analyzing it every single day. You matter just as much as the person doing the direct service on the ground. So I think understanding to that point, if someone say, hey, Derrick, it's just like when fathers come to me and like, and I don't even have children. I just have 8 nieces and nephews and a fleet of mentees, but they ask me, Derrick or Mr. D, how could I be a better dad? All I know is how to show up for a human person better. And that's the example I'm going to give you. Because I think it applies to any type of demographic. But when you think about Black boys or young men of color, they need consistency. They need someone to walk alongside them. It's not hand holding. I don't like to say we're not hand holding. We're walking alongside with them. If your capacity only allows you to carry them to C, then it's your responsibility to make sure before they go to D, you gave them a nice warm handoff to the next person that's going to get them there. And I think that's a lot of what happened when supporting our Black and brown boys within the city of Chicago, across the nation or the world. We think we did just enough to get them to that one space, but it's not enough. You just got them across the high school graduation stage, and that's where it stopped. Who are you handing them off to make sure? Because when I'm speaking on this subject matter of mental health and men's work, I'm like, when did you know you was a grown man?
Oof.
And most men tell me, well, when I'm 35, 40, 55, 70. So why the hell do we think this 15, 16, 17-year-old got it
That's
together?
real. Yeah.
And we putting all that pressure on them. And
yeah.
you just figured out how to be a better wife after your third after your third one. Come on. Or you just figured out your identity was one thing and now it's something else.
Yeah.
So it is a journey that is ever changing.
Yeah.
So I think the first step is answer an internalized question. What is my capacity? How am I showing up as a man right now?
Man, what you just opened up for me, right? Like a lot of times, one reason I love doing this is I can see things in people's ideas, right? So I can physically see it, right? And when you gave the framework of not holding the hand, I'm alongside you, but also that I'm passing the baton, right? It just immediately made me think, I'm like, well, shit, who picked up the baton at different stages, right? And you're right. I'm lucky in many ways because there were people, but in that same space, it's like, yeah, this kid, you did a great job. You did an excellent mentor. You were with this kid all 4 years. They killed it. They're great. And then you just left them out.
Yep.
And there was no intentional, like, this is the next
many
person
organizations
that you're going to rock with. That is an amazing concept that I definitely had never connected with, right? And it also makes me think, what does that look like? I'm just thinking Chicago right now. Because I'm going to be 100 too, right? Mentorship is hard because of the time commitment and because of the amount of learning you have to do first to be effective, right? And so I think, for me personally, I know if I'm trying to mentor a student or a young person, I don't necessarily start with that. Like, a perfect example, a young lady bought some DJ equipment for her 11-year-old. He wants to be a DJ. She's like, could you give him some class? First of all, no, I've never taught anybody how to DJ. I bought some things. I started punching things and I'm not the dopest by no standard, right? Like I don't even know what you mean. What do you think he means he wants to be a DJ? He's 11. What type of DJ? What does he think, right? And so my initial inclination was like, I'm not going to be dedicating this time to this random 11-year-old I don't know, right? But whatever reason I did, I went. And immediately I was like, before I tell you how to do anything, just show me what you've been doing so far. This kid is 5-6 steps ahead of where I was when I was, to your point, when I was 29 years old, right? After trying to be serious about this, make it a career. This kid is already way ahead of where I was, right? And so what fueled it, I guess is what I'm saying, is that I did have to first learn about the kid and learn what the kid knew. But that's a barrier for, I think, a lot of people, right? It's like, if I don't know this kid, how am I going to insert myself? I want to say one more thing too, though, is I really appreciate the way you framed, don't start with you think you have the answer. The first question is self-evaluation. What is it that I love the way you were like, the way I'm going to show up for these brothers is showing them how consistent I am, showing them how what I do for my family, because that's what's in your control right now. Yeah, I love that, man.
We have, even for grown men, we need community, and we get pissed off. Like, we don't always say it, but we get pissed off. People walk in and out of our life because when a man gets vulnerable, regardless how they identify, and then that person stops out of their life, it is severe anger. And that man oftentimes breaks in a way that more people don't even understand because we don't have those spaces to be able to just be and be vulnerable. And I said that's regardless of how you identify. So imagine for an undeveloped, fully developed young man who's still going through all of that. And then most times are in more violent communities than we were when we were children or we currently live right now. So just imagine all of that. And to something you said earlier is you may not know where to start with a young person, but all you have to do is ask. One of my clients, I just trained all of their mentors, 200 of them. And they were like, Derrick, how do you get to understand a student? Ask them a question. That is it. Stop looking at them as children and then look at them as human.
Yes.
Just because they're younger than you don't mean you have all the answers. You can learn from them just as much as they're learning from you.
Yeah.
So ask them, and again, keep asking them why. And when they can't answer anymore, that's the true answer.
Word. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so just ask them the thing. And then other than that, there's a book. Many a books.
You can find
that
something.
you read that new book on the new iPhone or that new Porsche you just bought.
Right.
Read this book on youth development or
Yeah.
mentorship.
Yeah.
Or read that link I just sent you.
Shout out to Kawanza. She held a session earlier today that I sat in on how to ally with youth. Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was brought up, or she asked us, I forget what the prompt was, but I know my answer was I didn't really start enjoying teaching when I started teaching. First of all, it wasn't something I like wanted to do. I was at a place where there was a job and I needed one.
Exactly. Most of us, that's our story of education. Either we went through a program that introduced us to it, or we was at an exit where we had to make a choice.
Yeah. So I went in, right? But I've also had and what I understand now to be a super unique experience that all of my years, I've been given the opportunity to create my curriculum. I've never been given a curriculum.
That's a beautiful freedom.
I mean, it was a struggle in the first early years, right? But I recognize now how really important that's been to what I've done so far. But anyway, so my point though is, so when I started, I was approaching it from duty. I was approaching it like, this is a job. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And even to your point about like connecting, even my own father, who I love dearly, and I'm thankful for everything. He just wasn't the verbal type of emotional communicating dude.
My father was the same way.
We didn't do to sit down after class. What did you do? We didn't do, I was heavily into sports. He wasn't at the games, right? But he made sure I had everything I need to go to the game. He made sure I got to do it.
And got home safely.
But he himself was not necessarily like the motivating factor, right? And so anyway, to that point, so that's how I was addressing young people, right? Like, we ain't got time for all the emotions. I ain't got time for all that you're thinking about. We got to do this thing by this. This is what I understand to be the case, right? And it wasn't until years later when I obviously Paulo Freire, somebody people reference a lot. I didn't even read the whole book, and I got to make that clear. I got to the one part in the intro where he's talking about, I walked into a room and I realized I didn't know none of these people. He was like a farmer's workers, something down in Latin America. I walked into this room and I didn't know none of them. So I asked them before I said anything. I just asked them, what do they need? What do I need? What do I need to teach you? What do you need to learn? He was like, and it took probably 2 to 3 days for me to get through everybody. And by that point, that was my curriculum.
Yep.
And that once I put the whole book down at that point, because that was what I started doing with my pedagogy. And I didn't start enjoying it until I gave the classroom to the kids entirely. What's like a highlight? Let me say this a different way. You work with a lot of different organizations. Just off the top of your head, who are some organizations or some people, some leaders in Chicago that you're working with that you just want to elevate, like what they're doing, and what is it that they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to elevate Brilliance to Excellence. That is the new backbone organization that supported My Brother's Keeper. What is unique about B&E is that they are a conglomerate mentorship organizations across the city. So it's Urban Male Network, Operation Basketball, Champs, I Am a Gentleman, all these groups coming together, saying that we are going to work collectively. We're going to put the egos aside. We're going to invest some of our own individual dollars into a movement that then brings the city of Chicago together. It also allows us to advocate with the city, with the state, with the funders to figure out exactly. It allows you to amplify. We have in our 3rd annual March for the Safety Summer coming up on June 14th. We have our next monthly meeting coming up next week, on the South Side. So that is what one organization I would definitely lift up is doing amazing work, because one thing I've come to realize that it is coalition building, it is collective impact work. When you think about Surge, that's what it is. I'm leading our regional breakout tomorrow for Chicago. We talk about collective impact. What do we take from this convening to take back to our city of Chicago? How are we going to work collectively as Surge alum to continue the movement in Chicago? So that's what we're talking about in the last session tomorrow. That is movement building. That is what's so important to me in my practice. When I decided to leave my job, full-time last year, I said, I want to figure out how to move masses. Not just one organization, not just a couple million, but all these now I'm moving all these organizations at millions of dollars. And all I'm is a voice of influence, honestly.
Man, I love that, bro. I love that, especially the particular part you mentioned about, like, Autumn had mentioned to me when we first discussed this, like that she was already going to have these sessions. And I was just like, oh, well, that's literally like what my concept thought was. So I can't wait for that, man. That's really dope. That's really dope. And I didn't know anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm also trying to get to, is like, Chicago is a big city, but for us, it is small.
Very.
There are not that many Black men that I have not had even just a minute ago. I completely forgot that his daughter went to the school I worked at.
Yeah.
Right? Because we didn't work. She was in a grade that I didn't teach.
Mm.
Right. And so this same man was going back and forth to that school every single day. Right. I'm there every single day. I'm probably passing his. I didn't even ask what her name was. And I bet you if he told me, I would immediately remember. Right. But even that, right? Even that, somehow we missed that connection all them years, them 2 years. Right. So I'm really just excited to hear how you talk about like that there is a coalition. Right. I think that I didn't know that. And now that I know that, I definitely know some energy points to push. I'll go to this last part because I went on to time and I think you probably need a little time to take a little rest. And this is more personal, but I'm not a fashionable guy. I'm gonna just say it like that, right?
We all have our own creative fashion.
But I'm gonna just be 100. When I say that, I don't necessarily mean that I don't look good. I know I look good, but I just mean that like I do not put the energy and time into the fit structure as other people.
The styling,
and the people that do it well, right? Like y'all seem to do it effortlessly, which does drive me a little crazy. I'm not gonna front, right? Like the fact that I can watch like you, Brian Riddick is one, Camille Taylor is one, like they just show up in the cleanest, most interesting constructions, but it's like there was no effort. They're like, oh yeah, I just did a thing. I struggle with that.
You gotta be in that room when it's being prepared, and you're like, no, this don't work. This don't work. This don't work.
I'm sure that happens, but I'm telling you, this is 2 or 3, and then I'm like, well, it's one of these. This all I got. Like, it's either this one or it's that one. So one of these gonna have to figure it out. But I bring that up to say, you wore some glasses yesterday that stood out so ASAP, man.
Yeah.
And I know that there's thought behind these things. I know that I'm just interested. How does that speak to you? You wore some glasses. I'll describe them. I initially didn't think they had lenses. I initially thought they were frames with no lenses.
Yeah.
But one of them was in the shape of a triangle, and the other was in the shape of a square, right? And it was an immediate notice, but it's also subtle, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like glowing. It wasn't lights jumping off and shit like that.
Yeah.
How does that work for you, man? What's that moment like when you see a piece that you just know is hot, or like how do you? What is that? What does that feel like?
I think that's a great question. I gravitate towards the thing that's unique and most people probably won't buy. Because I have built the confidence. I'm not gonna say I've always had it. I built the confidence and understand my fashion taste and what works for me. So I think that's what's so important. And so it's about the unique thing. If I research a pair of sneakers and then before I purchase and I saw them on the street on somebody else's feet,
off the list.
Because I haven't had a chance to flick it the way I need to flick it to make it mine. They already done it.
Word.
But when it comes to glasses, that's my thing. It's crazy. Quick story. When I turned 35 a couple years ago, I wanted to get contacts. I was like, man, I haven't had contacts all my life, but I finally want something different for 35. Went to the eye doctor, took the test. They changed the rule. You have to put the contact in and take it out before you leave the store. I failed 4 times. Because I have been wearing glasses my entire life.
I don't mean to laugh at the fault.
It's okay, but I've never played in my eyes. Like you talking about putting your finger in your. I was in there having panic attacks, and the doctor like, you got to calm down. But I was like, so I went even heavier into glasses because I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with them. So I'm always researching crazy frames, something that's wild and crazy. I mean, I'm a dark complected person, so I know color works on me. But I come from a very fashion-forward family. My mom is a seamstress, so I grew up as a kid. There. She made all of our clothes.
You cheating, right? You got a personal stylist at the crib.
I have a personal tailor. My mom, like the pants I'm gonna have on tonight for the thing. No one will ever have them because it's a unique piece that me and my mom curated. But that's what I love. I want my individuality to stand out. I mean, when you do a lot of work to become free and liberated. And it's a journey because as you grow, you encounter new things and you have to figure all of that out as well. But when you get to a place, I would tell someone, you got to believe that you're the finest in the room. But you also got to understand you're not for everybody else as well. So when you're dating, when you're seeking someone, like, don't think of it like rejection. It's like, that's a part of the process. And at the end of the day, you still got to be like, I am that dude. I am that person. I am that woman. And that's just how I show up. Because, at the end of the day, I am beautiful. And it's going to attract what it needs to attract. And it's going to keep away what it needs to keep away. And I'm in the season right now, step to me because I'm not stepping to you. That's just where it's at. So if this intimidates you, you ain't meant to walk up to me anyway,
Hey, that's super dope. Look, I literally went to go change before this, and I was like, I had a suit on. I'm like, man, I'm not gonna wear a suit. I'm not a suit guy.
Yeah.
I might go home and put this suit back on, bro. Like, I might come pop it out.
But even if you're not, but make the suit yours.
Yeah.
Wear it with the hat, wear it with the sneakers,
Yeah.
wear it with the t-shirt. Like, make it your own. It don't have to be the traditional way.
I love
That's
that,
all
man.
it is.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely was joking with my close friends because they know me. They like, man, they looked at all the dress code stuff. I was like, man, y'all know I got two things in the closet. I got a hoodie, I got some jeans,
Yeah.
and then I had to physically buy the suit jackets for the job for certain.
So next time,
events.
put on the jeans, the hoodie, and the suit jacket.
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it a whole.
But it's 102 degrees
Or
outside
not today.
right now.
Not today. Not today.
No, man. I really appreciate that, man. I guess I'll wrap up with one final thing, which is just obviously, we're at the convenience, not done yet. What are some of those things that are really, you're walking with heavy, and not like necessarily in a bad way, but there are some things that are still with you that have happened or that you've heard or that, you've, even if it was just chilling at the pool, like what are you taking from this experience so far?
I think the two things coming out of the last collective session was rest. So like making sure I get some rest. I'm still trying to keep to my fitness schedule while I'm here. And you also
Right,
slightly
you was in
on
the chat
vacation.
talking about going to the gym
And
at
I was
5
up,
a.m.
and I was up. I was up
good.
at 5:30 and there by 6. But like making sure I take some rest for myself, but also what's on my spirit, just the world. My friends always sit there. You really care for the world, not just the people you serve. Like you really think about all the intersections, and I do, because one thing what I've normalized for me being an American, being Black in America, is that our government's always going to change. Every 4 years, regardless how we look, it'll be a new president. In between those 4 years, it will be a new federal local government, which means we will always be debating something in this country. So, in my mind and in my practice, we talk about respectful indifference. How do we normalize that we're never always going to agree, but you still can respect me as a human? And I think when we start to normalize that versus everything else, like that's the true nature of what America is. And I think that's what keeps me up at night is like this whole narrative is that 1% wants to have more power than everyone else. I'm like, when will we just embrace that America could be a diverse country? And when we truly embrace that, we are truly the richest country in the world. Because all of us together doing all the magic, we have never truly seen that.
That's wild, actually. I love that. I love that painting, the way you laid that out, man. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Like I said, I want to honor your time to get some rest, man.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm a
More so to get dressed.
Yeah,
we got beat up at
that's
7.
why I went a little earlier. But yeah, man. But I'm gonna send this to you. It'll come up with potentially some follow-ups.
Okay.
Obviously, we're in Chicago, so we can always
most definitely,
up, man. Much appreciation to you, brother.
Same, brother.
Big salute to my brother Derrick. Thank you so much for pulling up to the podcast, man. And for the style points, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm still out here trying to put on a few things. So for those that want to find out more about Derrick the Gent, please check him out at DerrickTheGent.com. That's 2 R's ICK, thegent.com. I recently had the great opportunity to attend one of Derrick's Southside convening sessions from My Brother's Keeper, where he brings together various different organizational leaders and put together this brainstorming activity in conjunction with Terrence Pruitt, shout out to TP, put together this great brainstorming opportunity, really helping organizers work with one another to combine their efforts, combine their resources. Really dope session. So again, you can find out more about Derrick Gent at DerrickTheGent.com. We got one more episode left in the 4-part series of the Surge Soundbooth podcast. In episode 4, we get to learn about some of the intricacies and the nuances of working with adults in education, working with parents, working with other teachers, working with administrators. 2 dope educators in Detroit, Brandy and Khadijah. Make sure you tune in to episode 4. My name is Makinde Adedapo, and this is the Surge Soundbooth podcast.